Good morning, Mr. Robert Nicholson. Is that what I should call you, Mr.
Only my
Robert
mum
Nicholson?
calls me Robert when she's angry with me, so everyone calls me Robbie.
All right, Robbie. So, guys, we are so lucky today. We have a very special guest, Robbie Nicholson. Um,
Yeah.
Robbie, you have recently prepared a lot of IELTS practice tests for students, I hear.
Yes.
Is that right?
Well, I've been writing IELTS stuff for about 20 years, and I think I've written 60 or 70 tests,
Awesome.
but we're just writing some new
Oh
materials
my
right
gosh.
now, and we should have those published within the next within this calendar year, hopefully. But yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. And recently, you have made available to students a lot of computer IELTS practice tests. And these are difficult to come by. And I'm sure our listeners know if they have looked for them. There's a lot of IELTS practice online. Some of it's okay, some of it's great, but there isn't a lot of practice that really shows you what you'll experience on the computer exam. So, was this a difficult process preparing all of these computer IELTS
Yeah, it was a
versions?
difficult process because we would struggle to find out, like students would be who are trying to find practice, what the actual real IELTS format looked like, the computer-based IELTS. And you can find
Yeah,
some examples on the IELTS website, and you can track them down. And we use that as a
sure.
basis, and then we spent quite a
Nice.
long time, I mean, over a year, really making what our website and with our tests exactly the same as the IELTS, so that students who used it, when they got to the real thing, they wouldn't lose time or points or uh,
Yeah,
working out how to answer the questions. They would know how to operate in that computer-based IELTS, and therefore be able to achieve their
yeah,
potential. Yeah, but yeah, it wasn't easy. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Um, Because I mean, obviously, the paper version and the computer version are very similar. I mean, it's the same question, same material, same
Yeah,
essential
exactly.
material,
Hmm.
right? You're going to see the same reading passages and such. However, there are some slight differences which are really important to know before test day. So, guys, today Robbie is going to share 3 tips for you guys going into the computer
That's right.
IELTS test. And with his 25 years of writing these tests, with all of that
It makes me feel
experience in
old.
mind, he is going to help you guys out today. Don't worry, guys.
Oh
He's
yeah.
only 32. No, I'm just kidding. I've been writing IELTS since I was a baby. Um, so, guys, Robbie actually has prepared these tests for IELTS blog. You should be familiar with IELTS blog. Can you tell us a little bit about this
Well, this
platform,
is
this website?
a an Australian-based website. The person who runs it, Simone Braverman, is based in Melbourne, in Australia. Of course, IELTS is originally an Australian exam, and a lot of people who do IELTS are trying to study or emigrate to Australia, so it's very relevant for that sort of market.
Mhm,
And so Simone, I
mhm.
think, started up just trying a platform to help students and in order to look at the types of questions, look at the things which are going around the world, the latest tests that came out, what students who'd just done the test were saying. It's a very interesting thing that she's got this section on her website where you can just go through and people post what they've just done in their IELTS exam, and you can really see. And it's really
Yeah,
nice to see get a feel for the kind of topics that IELTS are asking, whether it's an essay question topic or
yeah.
whether it's the reading topic that they had to do about the question types which are coming up, the writing topics which are coming, the types of writing prompt, the
Mhm.
graphs which are being posted by
Yeah,
IELTS. And
yeah.
then she got in contact with me, and we sort of developed a kind of a partnership. And I wrote some practice tests, and she marketed them. And so now we're doing this on the online. Where see IELTS is moving with the times and going to the computer-based platform, and therefore we're trying to
Yeah.
continue to help students by providing the best possible preparation with that. So
Yeah, yeah, guys. If you follow us on social media, if you follow All Ears English on social media, I recently did a post about that. That the going to IELTS test centers in person, that is going to be a thing of the past. So we do need to prepare
Hmm.
for that and know that this is all going online soon. But you can still go in person today. But if you're taking the computer exam, listen up, guys. So before we get to those tips, I want to give you the website that you can find this material, guys. Go to test.ielts slash blog. Sorry, IELTS-blog.com. All right. So one more time, guys, that's test.ielts blog.com. All right. Come back to our blog, guys, and you can see this link. Come back to allearsenglish.com. And this is episode 1301. All right, Robbie. So before we get into these
Hmm.
three
Yeah.
problems that we're solving for students today, do you have any just general advice for students? How can we be preparing to get the best scores on
Yes,
test
Jessica.
day?
I think one of the key things, which you've touched on already a bit earlier, is this aspect of achieving your potential. That if you do some practice, and really, if you do it online, if you do it in a book, depending on which type of IELTS you're going to do, as long as you know what's happening in the test, the type of questions you're going to face, the
Mhm.
kind of questions and
Yeah.
topics which are given you, then when you come to the real thing, you don't waste time and points because you don't understand the format. And there's a lot of people out there online which will try and give you a magic bullet to improve your score. Well, you improve your score by knowing what's coming towards you, and by doing that you can
Yeah.
achieve your potential. And but if you really want to improve your English, there's no magic bullet for that. You need to do an English course. So that's
Totally.
my kind of thing I always like to say if I'm teaching IELTS face to face or doing something like this, or is just
Yeah.
to make sure that you do practice. And I know that seems to, and I do provide practice tests, but there's lots and lots of practice tests out there, so students can look at what people
Mhm.
say about different tests and make their choice about which ones they want to use. But yeah, that's the first piece of advice: is make sure that you know what's going on, especially with the computer one, because people are
Yeah.
not used to really that kind of format as a language test. Of course, it's going to be the thing of the future, certainly with IELTS. So the sooner
Yeah.
people familiarize themselves with that, then the more they'll be able to perform well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, can you imagine preparing for paper-based IELTS and just handwriting all of your exams and like you are not very good at
No, well,
typing, right? You get to test day and you're like, how can what? And you're hunting and pecking. I mean, there is some specific preparation that you guys have to do
yeah,
for
I
this
mean, I when
format.
I we first started developing the computer-based format, I went on and I started practicing in it. And I'm a native English speaker. I'm an IELTS teacher. I've got English degrees. I know exactly the kind of thing they do. And I was clueless. I did not know what I was doing. It's like, where do I put this? And how do I change to the next screen? Oh, you have to click it there. And
Yeah,
yeah, there are instructions, but of course, oh, you have to read the instructions. That's a good idea, isn't it?
totally.
Uh,
Yeah, totally. I actually flew to Canada a few years ago so I could take the computer
oh,
IELTS
really?
test like
Uh-huh.
in person
I did
just
think
to
about
get
that.
that
Yeah.
experience,
Uh-huh.
you know? Yeah. It's a whole other animal,
So,
guys.
Jessica,
All
first of
right.
all,
So,
what did you
one more
get?
time. Yeah. I got very good
Okay,
scores.
good.
I'm a native speaker.
I certainly
But
don't
thank
always
you.
get full
Yes.
marks when I do the practice things. I really don't. Okay.
Okay, so let's get into this, guys. What is the first problem that we are
Okay, so
solving
the
today,
first problem, and
Robbie?
I'm going to be looking a little bit to the side because I made some notes to make sure I don't miss anything with these things. So, excuse me, sort of looking from side to side from time to time.
No problem. Guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see what's happening. So remember, guys, to go to YouTube and look for IELTS Energy TV because you could be experiencing this so in so many more ways by seeing our hand
Yeah,
gestures and our facial expressions and
the
Robbie
audio
looking for
visual
notes.
experience in my head looking like I'm watching tennis. Yes.
But Robbie has very cool Beats headphones too, which I love. So also go to YouTube to check those
Yeah.
out. They're a very cool shade of red. All right, Robbie, what is
Okay, so
problem
problem
number
number
one
one,
today?
as all my problems, is to do with the listening. Of course, people have different weaknesses, but I've focused on the listening a bit.
Okay.
And
Sure.
I'm looking at losing track of the recording when you're listening and missing several answers in a row,
Yeah.
which sounds like two things, but really, of course, they're interrelated. So I don't think they are. So
Yeah.
when you're listening to the recording, and I guess if you are a reasonably competent English listener and communicator, the early part of the test probably isn't going to be so much of a problem for you. It's when it gets, because like all parts of the IELTS, it gets more difficult as it goes on. So part 3 and 4 are going to be much more
Hmm.
difficult than parts 1 and 2. Um,
Sure.
so as it gets more difficult and you're listening for the answers which you are, for the questions you're doing, what you can
Hmm.
sometimes happen is you miss one, which can be a bit panicky.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one little tip you can do to do this, obviously you get some time where you get to read the questions before the recording starts, which of course you need to use.
Yes.
But then when the actual thing starts and you're starting to, so maybe it's question number uh, 21, which is the beginning of part 3. So
Hmm.
you've got the question there,
Hmm.
and you're listening out for that answer. What I would suggest is, instead of just looking at question 21, look at question 21 and 22. So you're listening for two answers rather than just the one. And therefore,
Okay.
if you do happen to miss that answer for question 1, which happens sometimes, and you hit the question 22, you'll recognize question 22 and be able to answer it. Now, question 1 is gone, so
Yeah.
you can't help about that. You just have to carry on. But if you were still listening to question 21 and you hadn't gone on to question 22, you'd miss question 22 as well, possibly even question 23. So I would say always have those two questions in your head, and that will allow you to avoid that pitfall.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I fully agree. The key to this, guys, to not losing track, or if you do lose track, to
Mm-hmm.
not panicking, right? It's using that time before you listen well. So you are keeping in mind those keywords that you've highlighted, because we can highlight on computer IELTS. So you can
Mm-hmm.
highlight ahead of time. And remember, again, like just like Robbie said, guys, it all comes back to having the information and practicing so you know what to expect. If you know that all of the listening answers are
Yes,
in
of
order,
course. Yeah.
right? Then yeah, then don't just stare at the one that you missed. It's
Yeah.
not coming back. That ship has sailed. So we are moving on to the next questions. We're not panicking and we're remembering, okay, I have nine more nine more opportunities here. I'm going to focus
Mm-hmm.
one at a
And if you do
time,
miss
right?
one,
Just keep
especially if it's something
moving.
like a multiple choice question, don't leave it blank. I mean, write a logical answer.
Right.
You'll
Yeah.
hear what's going on between the two speakers. They will have a certain topic going on. There might be a logical answer which you might choose. And the
Yeah.
multiple choice and the listening is three distractors, three possibilities. So you've got a 1 in 3 chance.
Mhm.
Guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Always make a guess. You are not
No,
penalized for wrong answers, so do not
exactly.
leave anything blank on IELTS. All right, what
Well,
is
actually,
a
there's
problem number
related
2?
to problem number 1 as well. When the questions come up again, this also
Yeah.
be careful that when in English when we read from left to right. We orient ourselves like that. So our eyes
Mhm.
automatically go to the left of the screen to read the question. So question 21,
Mhm.
and then question 22. But question 22 is not under question 21. Question 22 is on the right of question 22 is on the right of question 1. So it goes from left to right, left to right. So
Mhm.
you can be a bit. It's another way of missing a question if you don't make sure that you go from left to right first.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I could see
Okay.
you frowning with
Um
bit of a convoluted
I
explanation.
was yes, no, I'm focusing on what you're saying, and I was focusing on
Uh
building
huh.
that image in my head, just like our listeners are. Yeah, definitely. So, again, like before you
um,
listen, right? Just make sure that you're looking at those numbers so
exactly.
you
Yeah.
know in
20.
what
Well, oh yeah.
order
Obviously,
you need to be looking
22
at
will
these
follow 21,
questions.
but it will be on the right of it, not underneath it. So it goes from left to right like that.
Right, yeah. And also, so the problem too, the rushing and choosing the answers too soon, right? Rushing ahead, maybe
Yes, that's actually,
guessing
yeah,
before you
exactly.
even
So,
listening. Yeah.
what happens very often, and I do this when I write tests as well, is there going to be something like two people in a train station. When's the train arriving? And John, the guy, says, "Oh, I think the train is arriving at platform 4." And you go, "Oh, could write platform 4?" But then
Right.
Mary says, "Oh no, actually, it's platform 7." And then John goes, "Oh, actually, yes, of course, you're
Yep.
right." And so the actual answer is platform 7, not platform 4, as previously said. So they try and
Exactly.
distract you a little
Yeah.
bit with different numbers or different dates or different times. Um,
There's yep. There's always gonna be a couple of
yeah,
those on every listening test, guys. Always. Because I mean, it's a classic test trick,
it is a
right?
trick, but I
Distracting
guess
you with
what
stuff like
IELTS are trying to
that.
do as well is try to mimic real life, and of course that does happen in real life. People get
Yeah.
communication problems, and you have to negotiate the answer that's
100%.
correct. So if you were cynical, you might say this is just a trick to swindle these poor test takers. But from another point, it could be actually just a way of mimicking real life. But anyway,
This happens
it's
in
what's
real
going to happen in the
life.
test. So whatever reason it's going to happen, it's going to be there.
Yep. So listen for those negative words like no, oh, don't do that. I changed
Yes,
my mind.
exactly.
However, now that
Yeah.
I think about it, listen to these
Hmm.
signal words, right? That someone has
Hmm.
given the wrong information
Yeah.
or is changing their mind. Because again, just like Robbie said, guys, that is going to happen at least once, but probably a couple times, especially early on.
Especially in those ones where the dialogues as
In like
well, where there's
sections
more than one people
part
interacting with each
one.
other.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to problem number 3. So, problem number 3 has to do with reading, guys. So far, we've talked about listening, but let's look at reading. What is a reading problem that students
Well, the reading that I'm
experience?
reading, again, it's to do with reading the questions. Now, there could be a reading test or it could be the speaking test.
Okay,
So, again,
gotcha.
you have a certain amount of time to read the questions, and it isn't terribly long, especially if it is something like a multiple choice where you have in reading test you'd have the question and four distractors, and listening there'd be the question and three distractors, and of course you're a bit nervous, you're a bit panicky. Listening, you only get to listen once, and you know it's once it's gone, it's gone. So there's a bit of nerves and adrenaline going through the body. So one thing you can do
Mhm.
is at the end of parts 1, 2, and 3, you get some time for checking. So as long as you
Yes.
don't need to do any guesses, or you might need to make sure that you do have checked your things, or maybe check the spellings and things like that. What you can do is
Mhm.
finish that section. This is a computer screen thing as well. Is you can change the screen from part
Yeah.
2, for example, to part 3, and then
You
you
could
can
go
go
early.
early,
Yeah.
exactly, and that will give you a little bit extra time to which you can take advantage of to read the questions.
Definitely, definitely. And I mean, just the overall advice still applies here, right? If you practice these steps and strategies over and over and
Yeah.
over again, right, you're going to be comfortable with how much time you have. You are going to be comfortable at the rate of reading that you need to employ in order to read these questions before the recording starts. And same on the reading exam, right? You need to have a system of strategies in place so you know how
Hmm.
much time to spend looking at the passage, how
Yeah.
much time to spend
Yeah, whether
looking
you're
at
going to
each
read the questions
question.
first or read the
So,
passage first, do it a few times and see what works best for you. It's to keep
yeah,
coming
yeah,
back to
totally.
practicing and making sure that you've prepared adequately
Yeah,
so that you can achieve the potential.
totally. Exactly. All right, guys. So, just to summarize today, the 3 issues that we've talked about, losing track of the recording and missing several answers in a row. We solve that by practicing. We solve that by focusing on what you need to do at the time and using our time well before we listen, right? Highlighting those keywords so you can keep track and never leave an
Yeah.
answer blank. And then, problem number 2, don't rush and choose the answers because the test writers like us, we throw in, I know you don't like this word trick, but we
They
throw
they
in
are
a
tricks.
couple
Yeah.
tricks, guys. And they're just fun to write. Like, just from a material creation standpoint, I kind of like
Mhm.
writing those little tricks. And then the last problem, guys, as long as you practice, you will be comfortable with that 15 to 20 seconds in the first three part, the 30 seconds in part 4 for listening. You have that time to look at the answers, at the questions and possible answers ahead of time. So just practice and get used to that. And there is so much online
Yeah.
practice waiting for you guys. Robbie, what is that website for students to find these
Right then, I
practice
don't know off the
tests?
top of my head, but it is test.ielts-blog.com, and that should get you to it.
Yeah, fantastic. Or guys, I mean, just Google IELTS blog. Simone Braverman's site is the
Exactly,
first
yeah,
one to
and
come up.
I mean, I don't want to blow our
Keep it
trumpet, but
easy.
we did spend a lot of time and effort making something which actually looked like IELTS. Of course, we're commercial, we're selling
Yeah.
access. However, we did want to have it. We didn't want to shortchange people. We're trying to get something which is as good as possible, and that's why we spent over a
Well,
year getting it
yeah.
right, going through each question, every single test, testing the answers. You know, endlessly to
Yep.
make it a quality product, we think.
Well, and it is. I had to look at these tests. They are fantastic, guys. These will definitely help you on test day. Once you have your strategies in place, you are actively improving your overall
Yeah,
English
you do.
skills. It is time for you to test these skills, right? And you need to apply your strategies and skills to the best practice that you can before test day. So watch out for that free practice because it's not always the best. We
Mm-hmm.
need quality practice like this, guys. So go to IELTS blog and check out all of those new opportunities to practice the computer exam. All right. Awesome, Robbie. Thank you
No,
so
thank
much
you
for
very much
chatting
for
today.
inviting me, Jessica. It was great to meet you.
All right.
Yeah, have a good day,
Have a good
everybody. Bye
day.
bye.
Bye.